Kokyo, The Eternal Mirror by Eihei Dogen. From Shobogenzo, The Treasury of the True Dharma Eye. What all the Buddhas and all the patriarchs have received and retained and transmitted one to one is the eternal mirror. They have the same view and the same face, the same image and the same cast. They share the same state and realize the same experience. A foreigner appears, a foreigner is reflected, 108,000 of them. A Chinaman appears, a Chinaman is reflected, for a moment and for 10,000 years. The past appears, the past is reflected. The present appears, the present is reflected. A Buddha appears, a Buddha is reflected. A patriarch appears, a patriarch is reflected. The 18th patriarch, the Venerable Gayasata, is a man from the kingdom of Magadha in the western regions. His family name is Uzaran. His father's name is Tengai, and his mother's name is Hosho. His mother once has a dream in which she sees a great god approaching her and holding a big mirror. Then she becomes pregnant. 7 days later, she gives birth to the Master. Even when he is newborn, the skin of the Master's body is like polished lapis lazuli, and even before he is bathed, he is naturally fragrant and clean. From his childhood, he loves quietness. His words are different from those of ordinary children. Since his birth, a clear and bright round mirror has naturally been living with him. A round mirror means a round mirror. It is a matter rare through the ages. That it has lived with him does not mean that the round mirror was also born from his mother's womb. The Master was born from the womb, and as the Master appeared from the womb, the round mirror came and naturally manifested itself before the Master and became like an everyday tool. The form of this round mirror is not ordinary. When the child approaches, he seems to be holding up the round mirror before him with both hands, yet the child's face is not hidden. When the child goes away, he seems to be going with the round mirror on his back, yet the child's body is not hidden. When the child sleeps, the round mirror covers him like a flowery canopy. Whenever the child sits up straight, the round mirror is there in front of him. In sum, it follows all his movements and demeanours, active and passive, What is more, he is able to see all Buddhist facts of the past, future, and present by looking into the round mirror. At the same time, all problems and issues of the heavens above and the human world come cloudlessly to the surface of the round mirror. For example, to see by looking in this round mirror is even more clear than to attain illumination of the past and illumination of the present by reading sutras and texts. Nevertheless, once the child has left home and received the precepts, the round mirror never appears before him again. Therefore, people of neighboring villages and distant regions unanimously praise this as rare and wonderful. In truth, though there are few similar examples in this Saha world, we should not be suspicious, but should be broad-minded with regard to the fact that in other worlds families may produce such progeny. Remember, there are sutras which have changed into trees and rocks, and there are good counselors who are spreading the Lotus Sutra in fields and in villages. They too may be a round mirror. Yellow paper on a red rod here and now is a round mirror. Who could think that only the Master was prodigious? On an outing one day, encountering the Venerable Samganandi, Master Gayasata directly proceeds before the Venerable Samganandi. The Venerable One asks, "That which you have in your hands is expressing what?" We should hear "is expressing what," not as a question, and we should learn it as such in practice. The Master says, "The great round mirror of the Buddhas has no flaws or blurs, within or without. We two people are able to see the same. Our minds and our eyes are completely alike. So how could the great round mirror of the Buddhas have been born together with the Master? The birth of the Master was the brightness of the great round mirror. Buddhas experience the same state and the same view in this round mirror. Buddhas are the cast image of the great round mirror. The great round mirror is neither wisdom nor reason, neither essence nor form. Though the concept of a great round mirror appears in the teachings of bodhisattvas at the 10 sacred stages, the 3 clever stages, and so on, it is not the present great round mirror of the Buddhas. because the Buddhas may be beyond wisdom. Buddhas have real wisdom, but we do not see real wisdom as Buddhas. Practitioners should remember that to preach about wisdom is never the ultimate preaching of the Buddha's truth. Even if we feel that the great round mirror of the Buddhas is already living with us, it is still a fact that we can neither touch the great round mirror in this life, nor touch it in another life. It is neither a jewel mirror nor a copper mirror, neither a mirror of flesh nor a mirror of marrow. Is the verse a verse spoken by the round mirror itself, or a verse recited by the child? Even if it is the child who preaches this 4-line verse, he has not learned it from other people, either by following the sutras or by following good counselors. He holds up the round mirror and preaches like this, simply because to face the mirror has been the master's usual behavior since his earliest childhood. He seems to possess inherent eloquence and wisdom. Was the great round mirror born with the child, or was the child born with the great round mirror? It may also be possible that the births took place before or after each other. The great round mirror is just a virtue of the Buddhas. Saying that this mirror has no blurs on the inside or the outside, neither describes an inside that depends on an outside, nor an outside blurred by an inside. There being no face or back, two individuals are able to see the same. Minds and eyes are alike. Likeness describes a human being meeting a human being. In regard to images within, they have mind and eyes, and they are able to see the same. In regard to images without, they have mind and eyes, and they are able to see the same. Object and subject, which are manifest before us now, are like each other within, and like each other without. They are neither I nor anyone else. Such is the meeting of two human beings, and the likeness of two human beings. That person is called I, and I am that person. Minds and eyes are totally alike, means mind and mind are alike, eyes and eyes are alike. The likeness is of minds and eyes. This means, for example, that the minds and the eyes of each are alike. What does it mean for mind and mind to be alike? The third patriarch and the sixth patriarch. What does it mean for eyes and eyes to be alike? The eye of the truth being restricted by the eye itself. The principle that the Master is expressing now is like this. This is how Master Gayasata first pays his respects to the Venerable Samganandi. Taking up his principle, we should experience in practice the faces of Buddhas and the faces of patriarchs in the great round mirror, which is akin to the eternal mirror. The 33rd Patriarch, Zen Master Daikan, in former days, when toiling in the Dharma order on Obaizan Mountain, presented the following verse to the ancestral master by writing it on the wall. In the state of Bodhi, there is originally no tree, neither does the clear mirror need a stand. Originally, we do not have a single thing. Where could dust and dirt exist? So then, we must study these words. People in the world call the founding patriarch Daikan the eternal Buddha. Zen Master Engo says, I bow my head to the ground before Soke, the true eternal Buddha. So remember the words with which the founding patriarch Daikan displays the clear mirror. Originally, we do not have a single thing. At what place could dust and dirt exist? The clear mirror needs no stand. This contains the lifeblood. We should strive to understand it. All things in the clear state are the clear mirror itself. And so we say, when a clear head comes, a clear head will do. Because the clear mirror is beyond any place. It does not have any place. Still more, throughout the universe in the 10 directions, does there remain one speck of dust which is not the mirror? On the mirror itself, does there remain one speck of dust which is not the mirror? Remember, the whole universe is not lands of dust, and so it is the face of the eternal mirror. In the order of Zen Master Nangaku Dae, a monk asks, if a mirror is cast into an image, to what place does its luster return? the master says, "Venerable monk, to what place have the features you had before you became a monk departed?" The monk says, "After the transformation, why does it not shine like a mirror?" The master says, "Even though it is not shining like a mirror, it cannot delude others one bit." We are not sure of what these myriad images of the present are made, but if we seek to know, the evidence that they are cast from a mirror is just here in the words of the Master. A mirror is neither of gold nor of precious stone, neither of brightness nor of an image, but that it can instantly be cast into an image is truly the ultimate investigation of a mirror. To what place does the luster return? Is the assertion that the possibility of a mirror being cast into an image is just the possibility of a mirror being cast into an image. It says, for example, that an image returns to the place of an image, and that casting can cast a mirror. The words, "Venerable monk, to what place have the features you had before you became a monk departed?" hold up a mirror to reflect the monk's face. At this time, which momentary face might be my own face? The Master says, "Even though it is not shining like a mirror, it cannot delude others one bit." This means that it cannot shine like a mirror, and it cannot mislead others. Learn in practice that the ocean's drying can never disclose the seabed. Do not break out and do not move. At the same time, learn further in practice. There is a principle of taking an image and casting a mirror. Just this moment is miscellaneous bits of utter delusion in 100,000 myriads of shining mirror reflections. Great Master Seppo Shinkaku on one occasion preaches to the assembly. If you want to understand this matter, my concrete state is like one face of the eternal mirror. When a foreigner comes, a foreigner appears. When a Chinaman comes, a Chinaman appears. Then Gensa steps out and asks, if suddenly a clear mirror comes along, what then? The Master says, the foreigner and the Chinaman both become invisible. Gensa says, I am not like that. Seppo says, how is it in your case? Gensa says, "Please, master, you ask." Seppo says, "If suddenly a clear mirror comes along, how will it be then?" Gensa says, "Smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces." Now, the meaning of Seppo's words, "this matter," should be learned in practice, as this is something ineffable. Let us now try to learn Seppo's eternal mirror. In the words, like one face of the eternal mirror. One face means the mirror's borders have been eliminated forever, and it is utterly beyond inside and outside. It is the self as a pearl spinning in a bowl. The present, when a foreigner comes, the foreigner appears, is about one individual Redbeard. When a Chinaman comes, a Chinaman appears. Although it has been said since the primordial chaos, since the reign of Banco, that this Chinaman was created from the 3 elements and 5 elements. In Seppo's words now, a Chinaman whose virtue is the eternal mirror has appeared. Because the present Chinaman is not a Chinaman, the Chinaman appears. To Seppo's present words, the foreigner and the Chinaman both became invisible. He might add, and the mirror itself also becomes invisible. Gensa's words, smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces, mean the truth should be expressed like that. But why, when I have just asked you to give me back a concrete fragment, did you give me back a clear mirror? In the age of the Yellow Emperor, there are 12 mirrors. According to the family legend, they are gifts from the heavens. Alternatively, they are said to have been given by the sage Kosei of Kodozan Mountain. The rule for using the 12 mirrors is to use 1 mirror every hour through the 12 hours, and to use each mirror for a month through the 12 months, and again to use the mirrors one by one, year by year, through 12 years. They say that the mirrors are Kosei's sutras. When he transmits them to the Yellow Emperor, the 12 hours and so on are mirrors with which to illuminate the past and to illuminate the present. If the 12 hours were not mirrors, how would it be possible to illuminate the past? If the 12 hours were not mirrors, how would it be possible to illuminate the present? The 12 hours, in other words, are 12 concrete sheets of mirror, and the 12 concrete sheets of time are 12 mirrors. The past and present are what the 12 hours use. The legend suggests this principle, even though it is a secular saying. It is in the reality of the 12 hours during which the Chinaman appears. Ken-en, the Yellow Emperor, crawls forward on Kodo Mountain and asks Kosei about the way. Thereupon Kosei says, "Mirrors are the origin of yin and yang. They regulate the body eternally. There are naturally 3 mirrors, namely the heavens, the earth, and human beings. These mirrors are without sight and without hearing. They will make your spirit quiet, so that your body will naturally become right. Assured of quietness and of purity, your body will not be taxed, and your spirit will not be agitated. You will thus be able to live long." In former times, these 3 mirrors are used to regulate the whole country and to regulate the great order. One who is clear about this great order is called the ruler of the heavens and the earth. A secular book says, "The Emperor Taiso has treated human beings as a mirror, and thus he fully illuminates all problems of peace and danger, reason and disorder." He uses one of the 3 mirrors. When we hear that he treats human beings as a mirror, we think that by asking people of wide knowledge about the past and present, he has been able to know when to employ and to discharge saints and sages, as, for example, when he got Gicho and when he got Bogenrei. To understand it like this is not truly to understand the principle which asserts that Emperor Taiso sees human beings as a mirror. Seeing human beings as a mirror means seeing a mirror as a mirror, seeing oneself as a mirror, seeing the 5 elements as a mirror, or seeing the 5 constant virtues as a mirror. When we watch the coming and going of human beings, the coming has no traces, and the going has no direction. We call this the principle of human beings as a mirror. The myriad diversity of sagacity and ineptitude is akin to astrological phenomenon. Truly, it may be as latitude and longitude. It is the faces of people, the faces of mirrors, the faces of the sun, and the faces of the moon. The vitality of the 5 peaks, and the vitality of the 4 great rivers passes through the world on the way to purifying the 4 oceans, and this is the customary practice of the mirror itself. They say that Taiso's way is to fathom the universal grid by understanding human beings. But this does not refer only to people of wide knowledge. Japan since the age of the gods, has had 3 mirrors, together with the sacred jewels and the sword they have been transmitted to the present. 1 mirror is in the grand shrines of Issa. 1 is in the Hinokuma shrine in Kii no Kuni, and 1 is in the depository of the imperial court. Thus, it is clear that every nation transmits and retains a mirror. To possess the mirror is to possess the nation. People relate the legend that these 3 mirrors were transmitted together with the divine throne and were transmitted by the gods. Even so, the perfectly refined copper of these mirrors is also the transformation of yin and yang. It may be that when the present comes, the present appears in them, and when the past comes, the past appears in them. Mirrors that thus illuminate the past and present may be eternal mirrors. Seppo's point might also be expressed. When a Korean comes, a Korean appears. When a Japanese comes, a Japanese appears. Or when a god comes, a god appears. When a human being comes, a human being appears. We learn appearance and coming like this in practice, but we have not now recognized the substance and details of this appearance. We only meet directly with appearance itself. We should not always learn that coming and appearance is a matter of recognition or a matter of understanding. Is the point here that a foreigner coming is a foreigner appearing? No. A foreigner coming should be an instance of a foreigner coming. A foreigner appearing should be an instance of a foreigner appearing. The coming is not for the sake of appearing, although the eternal mirror is just the eternal mirror. There should be such learning in practice. Gensa steps out and asks, what if it suddenly meets the coming of a clear mirror? We should research and clarify these words. What might be the scale of the expression of this word, clear? In these words, the coming is not necessarily that of a foreigner or of a Chinaman. This is the clear mirror, which Gensa says can never be realized as a foreigner or as a Chinaman. Though a clear mirror coming is a clear mirror coming, it never makes a duality. Though there is no duality, the eternal mirror is still the eternal mirror, and the clear mirror is still the clear mirror. Testimony to the existence of both the eternal mirror and the clear mirror has been expressed directly in the words of Seppo and Gensa. We should see this as the Buddha's truth of essence and form. We should recognize that Gensa's present talk of the clear mirror coming is totally penetrating, and we should recognize that it is brilliant in all aspects. It may be that in his encounters with human beings, Gensa directly manifests himself, and that, in manifesting directness, he can reach others. So should we see the clear of the clear mirror and the eternal of the eternal mirror as the same, or should we see them as different? Is there eternity in the clear mirror or not? Is there clarity in the eternal mirror or not? Do not understand from the words eternal mirror that it must necessarily be clear. The important point is that I am like that, and you are also like that. We should practice without delay, polishing the fact that all the patriarchs of India were also like that. An ancestral master's expression of the truth says that for the eternal mirror there is polishing. Might the same be true for the clear mirror? What do you say? There must be learning in practice that widely covers the teachings of all the Buddhas and all the patriarchs. Seppo's words, the foreigner and the Chinaman both become invisible, mean that the foreigner and the Chinaman, when it is the clear mirror's moment, are both invisible. What is the meaning of this principle of both being invisible? That the foreigner and the Chinaman have already come and appeared does not hinder the eternal mirror. So why should they now both be invisible? In the case of the eternal mirror, when a foreigner comes, a foreigner appears, and when a Chinaman comes, a Chinaman appears. But the coming of the clear mirror is naturally the coming of the clear mirror itself. Therefore, the foreigner and the Chinaman reflected in the eternal mirror are both invisible. So even in Seppo's words, there is one face of the eternal mirror and one face of the clear mirror. We should definitely confirm the principle that just at the moment of the clear mirror coming, the clear mirror cannot hinder the foreigner and the Chinaman reflected in the eternal mirror. Seppo's present assertion about the eternal mirror, that when a foreigner comes, a foreigner appears, and when a Chinaman comes, a Chinaman appears, does not say that the foreigner and the Chinaman come and appear on the eternal mirror, does not say that they come and appear in the eternal mirror. Does not say that they come and appear on the exterior of the eternal mirror, and does not say that they come and appear in the same state as the eternal mirror. We should listen to his words. At the moment when the foreigner and the Chinaman come and appear, the eternal mirror is actually making the foreigner and the Chinaman come. To insist that even when the foreigner and the Chinaman are both invisible, the mirror will remain, is to be blind to appearance, and to be remiss with regard to coming. To call it absurd would not be going far enough. Then Gensa says, I am not like that. Seppo says, how is it in your case? Gensa says, please, master, you ask. We should not idly pass over the words, please, master, you ask, spoken now by Gensa, without father and son having thrown themselves into the moment. How could the coming of the master's question and the requesting of the master's question be like this? When someone requests the master's question, it may be that someone ineffable has already understood decisively the state in which the question is asked, while the state of the questioner is already thundering. There is no place of escape. Seppo says, if suddenly a clear mirror comes along, how will it be then? This question is one eternal mirror which father and son are mastering together. Gensa says, smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces. These words mean smashed into 100,000 myriads of bits and pieces. What he calls the moment when suddenly a clear mirror comes along is smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces. That which is able to experience the state of smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces may be the clear mirror. When the clear mirror is made to express itself, the expression may be smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces. Therefore, the place where smashed bits and pieces are dangling is the clear mirror. Do not take the narrow view that formerly there was a moment of not yet being smashed to bits and pieces, and that latterly there may be a moment of no longer being smashed to bits and pieces. The expression is simply smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces. Confrontation with the hundreds of smashed bits and pieces is a solitary and steep unity. This being so, does this smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces describe the eternal mirror? Or does it describe the clear mirror? I would like to ask further for words of transformation. At the same time, it neither describes the eternal mirror, nor describes the clear mirror, though hitherto we have been able to ask about the eternal mirror and the clear mirror. When we discuss Genza's words, might it be that what is manifesting itself before us as only sand, pebbles, fences, and walls has become the tip of a tongue, and thus smashed into hundreds of bits and pieces? What form does the smashing take? Eternal blue depths, the moon in space. Great Master Shinkaku of Seppo Mountain and Zen Master Einen of Sansho-in Temple are walking along when they see a group of apes. Thereupon Seppo says, "These apes are each backed with one eternal mirror." We must diligently learn these words in practice. Ape means monkey. How are the apes that Seppo sees? We should ask questions like this and make effort further, not noticing the passing of kalpas. Each is backed with one eternal mirror, though the eternal mirror is the face of Buddhist patriarchs. At the same time, the eternal mirror, even in the ascendant state, is the eternal mirror. That it backs each individual ape does not mean that there are big mirrors and small mirrors according to individual differences. It is one eternal mirror. As to the meaning of backed, for example, we say that a painted image of Buddha is backed with what we stick behind it. When the backs of apes are backed, they are backed with the eternal mirror. What kind of paste could have been used? To speak tentatively, the backs of monkeys might be backed with the eternal mirror. Is the back of the eternal mirror backed with monkeys? The back of the eternal mirror is backed with the eternal mirror, and the backs of monkeys are backed with monkeys. The words that each back has one face are never an empty teaching. They are the truth expressed as the truth should be expressed. So, apes or eternal mirrors. Ultimately, what can we say? Are we ourselves originally apes? Or are we other than apes? who can we ask? Whether we are apes is beyond our knowledge, and beyond the knowledge of others. Whether we are ourselves is beyond intellectual groping. Sancho says, "It has been nameless for successive kalpas. Why would you express it as the eternal mirror?" This is a mirror, a concrete instance with which Sancho has certified his realization of the eternal mirror. For successive kalpas means before a mind or a moment of consciousness has ever appeared. It means the inside of a kalpa not having shown its head. Nameless describes the successive kalpas, sun faces, moon faces, and eternal mirror faces, and describes the face of the clear mirror. When the nameless is really the nameless, the successive kalpas are never successive kalpas. Given that the successive kalpas are not successive kalpas, Sancho's expression cannot be an expression of the truth. Instead, before a moment of consciousness has ever appeared, means today. We should train and polish without letting today pass in vain. Frankly, through the fame of this nameless for successive kalpas is heard on high. It expresses the eternal mirror as what? A dragon's head with a snake's tail. Seppo might now say to Sancho, "The eternal mirror, the eternal mirror." Seppo does not say that. What he says further is, "A flaw has appeared," or in other words, a scratch has emerged. We are prone to think, how could a flaw appear on the eternal mirror? At the same time, in saying that the eternal mirror has borne a flaw, Seppo may be calling the expression, "It has been nameless for successive kalpas," a flaw. The eternal mirror, described by a flaw has appeared, is the total eternal mirror. Sancho has not got out of the cave of a flaw appearing on the eternal mirror, and so the understanding which he has expressed is utterly a flaw on the eternal mirror. This being so, we learn in practice that flaws appear even on the eternal mirror, and that even mirrors on which flaws have appeared are the eternal mirror. This is learning the eternal mirror in practice. Sancho says, "What is so deadly urgent that you are not conscious of the story?" The import of these words is, why are you in such a deadly hurry? We should consider in detail and learn in practice whether this deadly emergency is a matter of today or tomorrow, the self or the external world, the whole universe in 10 directions, or a concrete place inside the great kingdom of Tang. As to the meaning of story in the words, you are not conscious of the story. There are stories that have continued to be told. There are stories that have never been told. And there are stories that have already been told completely. Now the truths which are in the story are being realized. Has the story itself, for example, realized the truth together with the earth and all sentient beings? It is never restored brocade. Therefore, it is not conscious. It is the non-consciousness of the man facing the royal personage. It is being face to face without consciousness of each other. It is not that there are no stories. It is just that the concrete situation is beyond consciousness. Non-consciousness is red mind in every situation, and further, not seeing with total clarity. Seppo says, it is the old monk's mistake. Sometimes people say these words meaning, I expressed myself badly. But the words need not be understood like that. The old monk means the old man who is master in his house. That is to say, someone who solely learns in practice the old monk himself, without learning anything else. Though he experiences 1,000 changes and 10,000 transformations, heads of gods and faces of demons, what he learns in practice is just the old monk's one move. Though he appears as a Buddha and appears as a patriarch at every moment and for 10,000 years, what he learns in practice is just the old monk's one move. Mistakes are his abundant jobs as temple master. Upon reflection, Seppo is an outstanding member of the Order of Tokuzan, and Sancho is an excellent disciple of Rinzai. Neither of the two venerable patriarchs is of humble ancestry. Seppo is a distant descendant of Seigan, and Sancho is a distant descendant of Nangaku. That they have been dwelling in and retaining the eternal mirror is evidenced as described above. They may be a criterion for students of later ages. Seppo preaches to the assembly. If the world is 10 feet wide, the eternal mirror is 10 feet wide. If the world is 1 foot wide, the eternal mirror is 1 foot wide. At this, Gensa pointing to the furnace, says, "Tell me then, how wide is the furnace?" Seppo says, "As wide as the eternal mirror." Gensa says, "The old master's heels have not landed on the ground." He calls 10 feet the world. The world is 10 feet. He sees 1 foot as the world. The world is 1 foot. He describes the 10 feet of the present and describes the 1 foot of the present. Never any other unfamiliar foot or tens of feet. When people study this story, they usually think of the width of the world in terms of countless and boundless 3,000 great thousandfold worlds, or the limitless world of Dharma. But that is only like being a small self and cursorily pointing to beyond the next village. In taking up this world, here and now, we see it as 10 feet. This is why Seppo says, "The width of the eternal mirror is 10 feet, and the width of the world is 10 feet. When we learn these 10 feet, here and now, we are able to see one concrete part of the width of the world. In other cases, when people hear the words eternal mirror, they envisage a sheet of thin ice. But it is not like that. The 10-foot width of the eternal mirror is at one with the 10-foot width of the world, but are the form and content of the eternal mirror and the world necessarily equal? And are they at one when the world is limitless? We should consider this diligently. The eternal mirror is never like a pearl. Never hold views and opinions about whether it is bright or dull, and never look at it as square or round. Even though the whole universe in 10 directions is one bright pearl, this cannot match the eternal mirror. So the eternal mirror, regardless of the coming and the appearance of foreigners or Chinese, is everything that happens through the length and breadth of this state of brilliance. But it is not numerous and not large. Width refers to this real quantity. It does not mean extent. Width means what is expressed as 2 or 3 ordinary inches and counted, for example, in 7s and 8s. In calculation of the Buddha's truth, when we calculate it in terms of great realization or non-realization, we clarify a weight of 2 pounds or 3 pounds. And when we calculate it in terms of Buddhas and patriarchs, we realize 5 things or 10 things. 1 unit of 10 feet is the width of the eternal mirror, and the width of the eternal mirror is 1 thing. Gensa's words, "How wide is the furnace?" are an unconcealed expression of the truth, which we should learn in practice for 1,000 ages and for 10,000 ages. To look now into the furnace is to look into the furnace having become a person who is who. When we are looking into the furnace, it is not 7 feet, and it is not 8 feet. This story is not a tale of agitation and attachment. It is about the realization of a singular state in a fresh situation. As expressed, for example, what is it that comes like this? When the meaning of the words, "What amount of width," has come to us, the what amount of width may be different from how wide as we have understood it hitherto. We must not doubt the fact of liberation at this concrete place. We must hear in Gensa's words the fundamental point that the furnace is beyond aspects and dimensions. Do not idly allow the 1 dumpling before you now to fall to the ground. Break it open. This is the effort. Seppo says, "As wide as the eternal mirror." We should quietly reflect on these words. Not wanting to say the furnace is 10 feet wide, he speaks like this. It is not true that saying 10 feet would be the fit expression of the truth, whereas as wide as the eternal mirror is an unfit expression. We should research actions that are as wide as the eternal mirror. Many people have thought that not saying the furnace is 10 feet wide was unfitness of expression. They should diligently consider the independence of width. They should reflect that the eternal mirror is a concrete thing, and they should not let action which is reality pass them by. Seppo may be manifesting behavior in the way of the ancients, never falling into despondency. Gensa says, "The old man's heels have not landed on the ground." The point here is whether we call him the old man or whether we call him the old master. This is not always Seppo himself, because Seppo may be a real old man. As to the meaning of heels, we should ask just where they are. We should master in practice just what heels means. Does mastering heels in practice refer to the right Dharma eye treasury, or to space, or to the whole ground, or to the lifeblood? How many heels are there? Is there one? Is there a half? Are there 100,000 myriads? We should do diligent research like this. They have not landed on the ground. What kind of thing is the ground? We provisionally call the present earth ground, in conformance with the view of our own kind. There are other kinds that see it, for instance, as the Dharma gate to unthinkable salvation. And there is a kind that sees the earth as the Buddha's many enactments of the truth. So in the case of the ground upon which heels should land, what does Gensa see as the ground? Is the ground the real state of being, or is it the real state of being without? Further, we should ask again and again, and we should tell ourselves and tell others whether it is impossible for even an inch or so of what we generally call the ground to exist within the great order. Is heels touching the ground the right state? Or is heels not landing on the ground the right state? What situation leads Gensa to say they have not landed on the ground? When the earth is without an inch of soil, the words touching the ground may be immature, and the words not having landed on the ground may be immature. This being so, the old man's heels not having landed on the ground is the very exhalation and inhalation of the old man, the very moment of his heels. Zen Master Koto of Koku-Tai-In Temple on Kinkazan Mountain in the Bushu district, the story goes, is asked by a monk, "What is the eternal mirror like before being polished?" The master says, "The eternal mirror." The monk says, "What is it like after being polished?" The master says, "The eternal mirror." Remember, the eternal mirror under discussion now has a time of being polished, a time before being polished, and a time after being polished, but it is wholly the eternal mirror. This being so, when we are polishing the eternal mirror in its entirety. We do not polish by mixing in mercury or anything else other than the eternal mirror. This is neither polishing the self, nor the self polishing. It is polishing the eternal mirror. Before being polished, the eternal mirror is not dull. Even if people call it black, it can never be dull. It is the eternal mirror in its vivid state. In general, we polish a mirror to make it into a mirror. We polish a tile to make it into a mirror. We polish a tile to make it into a tile. And we polish a mirror to make it into a tile. There are times when we polish without making anything, and there are times when it would be possible to make something, but we are unable to polish. All equally are the traditional work of Buddhist patriarchs. When Baso of Koze, in former days, was learning in practice under Nangaku, Nangaku on one occasion intimately transmits to Baso the mind seal. This is the beginning of polishing a tile. Baso has been living at Dempo Inn Temple, sitting constantly in Zazen for a matter of 10 or so years. We can imagine what it is like in his thatched hut on a rainy night. There is no mention of him letting up on a cold floor sealed in by snow. Nangaku one day goes to Baso's hut, where Baso stands waiting. Nangaku asks, "What are you doing these days?" Baso says, "These days Do-Itsu just sits." Nangaku says, "What is the aim of sitting in Zazen?" Baso says, "The aim of sitting in Zazen is to become Buddha." Nangaku promptly fetches a tile and polishes it on a rock near Baso's hut. Baso, on seeing this, asks, "What is the master doing?" Nangaku says, "Polishing a tile." Baso says, "What is the use of polishing a tile?" Nangaku says, "I am polishing it into a mirror." Baso says, "How can polishing a tile make it into a mirror?" Nangaku says, "How can sitting in Zazen make you into a Buddha?" For several hundred years, since ancient times, most people interpreting this story, great matter that it is, have thought that Nangaku was simply spurring Baso on. That is not necessarily so. The actions of great saints far transcend the states of common folk. Without the dharma of polishing a tile, how could the great saints have any expedient method of teaching people? The power to teach people is the bones and marrow of a Buddhist patriarch. Although Nangaku has devised it, this teaching method is a common tool. Teaching methods other than common tools and everyday utensils are not transmitted in the house of Buddha. Further, the impression on Baso is immediate. Clearly, the virtue authentically transmitted by the Buddhist patriarchs is directness. Clearly, in truth, when polishing a tile becomes a mirror, Baso becomes Buddha. When Baso becomes Buddha, Baso immediately becomes Baso. When Baso becomes Baso, Zazen immediately becomes Zazen. This is why the making of mirrors through the polishing of tiles has been dwelt in and retained in the bones and marrow of eternal Buddhas. And this being so, the eternal mirror exists, having been made from a tile. While we have been polishing this mirror, in the past also, it has never been tainted. Tiles are not dirty. We just polish a tile as a tile. In this state, the virtue of making a mirror is realized, and this is just the effort of Buddhist patriarchs. If polishing a tile does not make a mirror, polishing a mirror cannot make a mirror either. Who can suppose that in this making there is both becoming Buddha and making a mirror? Further, to express a doubt, is it possible, when polishing the eternal mirror, to mistakenly think that the polishing is making a tile? The real state at the time of polishing is at other times beyond comprehension. Nevertheless, because Nangaku's words must exactly express the expression of the truth, it may be, in conclusion, simply that polishing a tile makes a mirror. People today also should try taking up the tiles of the present and polishing them, and they will certainly become mirrors. If tiles did not become mirrors, people could not become Buddhas. If we despise tiles as lumps of mud, then we might also despise people as lumps of mud. If people have mind, tiles must also have mind. Who can recognize that there are mirrors in which, when tiles come, tiles appear? And who can recognize that there are mirrors in which, when mirrors come, mirrors appear? Preached to the assembly at Kannon-dori Kosho Horinji Temple on the 9th day of the 9th lunar month in the 2nd year of Ninji.